Management course, Module 4. Let's start by looking at project scope, tolerance, and exception, 3 key concepts of the Prince2 project management methodology. Scope. The scope of a project is the total of its deliverables and the extent of their requirements. The scope is developed from the business case and is defined within the project initiation meeting and subsequently detailed in the project brief. Tolerance. Tolerance is the quantifiable amount of deviation as stated in the project scope that is permissible or allowed before any escalation is required, and is the potential changes to be made to the project plan in order to address and accommodate the respective issues which have caused the deviation. Exception. An exception is a forecasted situation whereby there will be a deviation beyond the project's tolerance levels, as agreed between the project manager and the project board. An exception plan and respective exception reports may need to be produced for reporting purposes. Now let's move on to project initiation. Initiating any project can take many forms, but essentially it's gathering the right people at the right time to outline the contents of the project brief, which is based on the project's business case, and what as a team you're seeking to do to deliver business benefits to time, to cost, and to quality. Remember the project management triangle? It is one of the most important meetings or discussions you're going to ever have over the course of the project lifecycle. And as such, planning the structure of this meeting based on the project brief will pay huge dividends as the project develops over time. It's also a forum to highlight any initial thoughts on initial risks, issues, and showstoppers that might prevent you from achieving the above. It's the start of the issues and risks register. The project initiation should also be used as a forum in which to clarify any information provided to you as part of your project brief, to seek collective understanding and acceptance of the project brief, as well as noted timescales, project resource, escalation procedure, and change management. It's also the forum to start to build up your stakeholders and project resource list, and start engagement with the project team, building rapport and trust. The project initiation meeting is the start of the planning phase of your project, and key activities which form the critical path to your project can start to be developed in order to help create your project plan. All respective stakeholders, as currently known, should attend the project initiation forum, which could be in the form of either a face-to-face meeting or maybe via a conference call. But whichever method you choose to set up, it's very important to ensure a clear understanding and focus of the tasks at hand and what things you specifically need to set up, start, manage, and control the project. Initiating a project is more than just gathering together information and ensuring collective understanding. It really is the start of project planning. The more effort put into planning a project, the greater the degree of project success. It should be noted that all through the course of a project's life cycle, the business objectives of the project, as outlined in the project brief and discussed in the project initiation, may change due to business needs, strategy, its budget, and customer requirements. You should bear this in mind and be prepared to ask searching questions relating to how change will be managed via change management and how issues and risks will be managed by escalation, should it be necessary. There is no ideal or perfect time to schedule a project initiation meeting, but try where you can to avoid such things as pinch points, like early mornings, late afternoon, or lunchtime periods. Use Lotus Notes, Microsoft Mail to try and find an ideal time that suits everyone, and try not to make the meeting last any longer than a couple of hours. Otherwise, people may lose interest. When setting up a project initiation meeting, it's very, very useful to add to your invitation to the meeting the following line of text. Simply put, please feel free to invite anyone else onto this call or to this meeting who could add value. By adding this comment, it will enable those invited to have a think about and forward the invitation to anyone else not currently known who could add something really useful and valuable to the discussion, and potentially build upon your initial stakeholders list. But there is a word of caution. If you have too many people attending a project initiation meeting, it can drown out the important focus of the meeting and create unnecessary project noise. So the project initiation meeting is the first major opportunity to start building alignment and rapport with your stakeholders and understanding between the project's diverse stakeholders. A project initiation meeting should have an appropriate and tailored agenda, which is aligned to the project brief. And here's an example of an agenda for a project initiation meeting. You'll notice the one word common to all, and that's agree. Firstly, agree the project brief and the financials. Then agree the process and methodology you're going to follow to deliver this project, the specific activities, the resource and the timescales. Agree your project milestones. Agree the program of activity to agreed project timescales and the delivery versus benefits expectation. Agree the current and potential risks and issues as they're known at the moment. Agree the project reporting requirements. Agree the project checkpoint calls and comms that you're going to use to facilitate your communications plan. Agree any immediate actions that are needed. Agree your resources, and feel free to add on any other business that you see fit. The agenda should be circulated to all invitees before the meeting, and minutes should be taken against each agenda item and then distributed to all attendees after the meeting. Please note that sometimes a PID, otherwise known as a project initiation document, may be required depending on the project. The same information can be gathered for the PID from the respective agenda and minutes. So when we talk about project documentation, the question that often gets asked is, what documentation do I need to manage, control, and monitor my project? The simple answer is it's really up to you. Equally, how detailed, specific, or generic, or all-encompassing each of these documents is also up to you. But if you follow a strictly speaking Prince2 methodology, there are a host of documents and formats that the methodology suggests. But ideally, in my experience, there are only a few small number of key documents that you will need to have at your fingertips. And these include the following: the project brief, the project plan, risks and issues register, actions register, and the stakeholder and project resource document. A good key element here is that documents should be stored either individually or collected together in a project workbook, such as in Microsoft Excel, with separate tabs created for each document. The choice is yours, of course, but the project workbook would form the basis of the project initiation document, or PID, which is basically a set of document worksheets that bring together the key information needed to start the project on a sound basis and which conveys the information to all project stakeholders. So let's start by looking at the first of these key documents, the project brief. The project brief is a document which offers you a set of basic information, the building blocks upon which to kick off, initiate, or start your project in order to manage on behalf of a client, customer, or business case owner. The project brief builds upon the project's agreed and funded business case by allowing the project manager to build in much greater granularity and detail, which can then be communicated to the wider project team and subsequently turned into measurable project tasks and activity. The more complete and substantive the project brief is, the better you will be able to initiate, direct, and manage your project. By the creation of the project brief early in the project's life cycle, based on the project's business case, you'll have the absolute essential information to begin working on your project, and it should be seen as the bedrock of any project. Every project brief should essentially contain the following. Firstly, the project name. This is the name by which your project should be called or identified by all concerned. It should be something meaningful for all respective stakeholders. Always include the date on which the project brief was created, and who produced the project brief, and who owns the project brief, usually the project manager. Always document the project scope. In other words, how far your remit goes in the provision or delivery of the project. It's the sum total of the project's products and the extent of those requirements. Also, include what is not in scope. What is not in scope is the sum total of the project's products and the extent of their requirements that are not currently in scope for project delivery. Include a project brief reference number as the unique number which identifies your project brief. Manage it by document release. What release is this for the project? Is it in draft? What issue is it? Etc. What methodology are you going to use to deliver the project? Are you going to use Prince2? Are you going to use an Agile or one of Agile's flavors? Make it clear. Project governance. What is the team hierarchy or structure that will govern the project? Include your business case reference that the project brief pertains to. Most importantly, give a description of what the project involves and what it seeks to deliver. Include why the project is needed and what the high-level drivers are. Then include the high-level breakdown of the project costs, together with the budget being sought or required from the business to pay for the costs to deliver the project. It's very important to include the overall project timescales for delivery, including, where appropriate, a breakdown of the timescales into phases, chunks, or stages. Include the name of the person who is the main driving force behind the project, the sponsor. It's most likely going to be someone on the executive, the project board, or the person who has been appointed in the executive. Also include the customer's name. All projects must have an owner. This is often the client or customer to which you are delivering the project's benefits, or often the business case owner, the person who owns the project's budget. This is usually the person who has commissioned the work and will benefit from the end results. Include the name of the project manager, who's the named individual who has been given the authority and responsibility to manage the project on a day-by-day basis to deliver the required products. Include the names of any business partners, their names, the teams, the organizations that will be working in partnership with you on the project. Include the names where known of the key stakeholders. These are the names of the key individuals, groups, or organizations that can affect or be affected by the project. This could be groups like design, plan and build, the delivery manager, demand manager, and it should be provided to help get you started on building your own stakeholder and project resource contacts list as part of your project documentation. Include in your project brief the business benefits, the measurable improvements resulting from an outcome perceived as an advantage by one or more of the project stakeholders. List the project objectives, the perceived main drivers for the project, the critical things that the project wants to deliver. Equally, put the key project deliverables into your project brief. These are the key outputs or specialist products that are intended to be handed over to the users once the project is complete. Include what are known as the key risks, the key uncertain events or set of events that, should it or they occur, will have an effect on the achievement of the project's objectives. Equally, put the key issues in as well. Put the project tolerance. What is the permissible deviation above and below the project's plan's target for time, cost, and quality? Then add the constraints. What are the restrictions or limitations that the project is bound by? List any assumptions, which are essentially statements that are being taken as being true for the purposes of planning, but which could change later. Usually it's where the facts are not yet known or decided. But be careful, assumptions can be dangerous. We need to deal with facts. Also include the high-level technical details. This should state in plain English or whatever language you're using, and at an understandable level of detail for a non-technical person, what are the technical details of the delivery looks like. Reporting requirements is an opportunity for you to include in your project brief the client, customer, business case owners to inform of any specific reporting on project status, issues, risks that they may require. You will find this really useful later on when setting up your own project governance. Finally, include in your project brief the comms requirements, communications, the details of what communication requirements will be set up for which audience against which timescales for reporting on current project status. I think having gone through a lot of this project brief, you will realize that some of this information may already be provided as part of your business case, and you'd be correct. Use the project's business case to build upon the information needed for your project brief. The whole purpose really of the project brief is to put a finer level of granularity on the business case as agreed within your project team. So to finish off this module, let's have a go at exercise 2, if you wish. Stop the video and use a project example you previously used in the first exercise to design a simple project brief for yourselves. Take 15-20 minutes or so in order to do this, and resume the video on Module 5 when complete.